We don't have any time to waste. Welcome back, friends and babes. If you're here, it's because you want to learn more about local politics, and frankly, so do we. So we are the Ballot Babes. I'm your host, Patty Weens.
And I'm your co-host, Sam Biko.
In today's episode, we'll talk about this past weekend's Empowering Women event, and we'll share some speculations of who's running in the civic election. This past weekend, while Sam was busy working a trade show, shout out to Winnipeg Punk Rock Flea Market, Ian and I attended the Empowering Women event at City Hall. If you don't know what that is, I encourage you to watch for it. It's an event that started as an idea by Councillor Janice Lukes, actually. Last year, she got together with the other female councillors and hosted a little tea, coffee reception and talk about what it's like being a woman on council. It's a very positive event, actually, and this time they had a Q&A session with Councillor Emma Durand-Wood, who was an actual product of last year's event. They asked Emma some great questions like, why did you run? What was the transition like? How many days did you get to prepare? And some questions about the campaign itself. Sam, did you know that she found out on a Saturday night that she won the election, and then on Thursday she was sworn in and participated in a full city council meeting?
That's fast.
Yeah.
That's like just waking up and just being pushed out the door and pushed right into a completely different life. And she worked really hard for that. Her campaign was so strong. And that's kind of the first time that I've been like biting my nails down about someone's campaign, because as maybe some of you know, her seat in Elmwood, it was vacated, unfortunately, by the passing of the councillor, Jason Schreier, and there was a by-election. So Emma ran, and she ran against some candidates who had been running numerous times before in that ward. Some people with very strong campaign slogans. I'm not going to repeat them here because that's for a different, juicier episode. But what was so great about her campaign is that she really tapped into community and she just went for the basics. She did door knocking. She listened to people. She asked people what they needed in the ward, and she talked about realistic ways that she was going to deliver on that because she has tons of experience in community organizing. And she just had a great team of volunteers who were doing that and doing calling, and she won. And it was just like felt so good just to get that news last October. So, and she will be running again in this election happening in this October.
You think so?
Yes.
She's listening right now, I'm sure. And she's going, oh no, I'm running.
No. So that actually hasn't been confirmed, and we're going to talk a bit more about the hot goss on who is going to. But it is a very interesting situation because she was literally just sworn in and just started, like 8 months ago. And if she does intend to run again, she has to do it all over again. She has to be voted back in, even though her term was only a year, and everyone else gets 4. So she's got to do it all over again. So if she does.
All over. Exactly. Yeah. I actually participated in a small part in that campaign. And the one thing that really stood out to me was how well thought out everything was. Emma was a librarian, and she is a book editor, my book editor, actually. So she had a thorough methodology and approach to everything she did, including developing her policies. She talked about that even at the event on Saturday. And Councillor Luce commented on how she was watching everything that Emma was posting on her website, and how Emma started with just a few points. And then by the end of her campaign, she had her policies completely fleshed out in ways that some of the current councillors don't even have. So that's a really good point for you listeners, whether you're thinking of running or just watching candidates who are considering running. It's important to keep an eye on the policies and promises that they are making to see if, 1, they align with your values, and number 2, do they even make sense? For example, what promises are they making? Are they telling you they're going to cut taxes or that they're going to revert to the old transit system? Sam, is that something a city councillor can just do?
No, unless every city councilor suddenly has the power of the strong mayor model, which we talked about a couple of episodes ago. No. And also, just to remind you, dear listener, everything that goes through needs at least 8 votes. So one person can say that they
Nine
are
votes.
going, oh, sorry, 9
Yeah,
votes.
because
So they can
eight,
say they're
yeah.
they're going to do something, but it just means that it's something that's important to them and they'll try to push for it. As we've seen, results are not instantaneous, and often these things don't manifest just with the power of one person because this isn't a movie or a comic book. This is just as
Is it?
exciting,
Are you
the
sure?
bureaucratic process.
Sometimes it feels like we're living in a warped
It
comic
does.
book. That's not very funny. But back to the women's event. It was a very heartwarming and positive event, which is great to be in City Hall for. The councillors shared some of the hard things they overcame to get elected and some of the shattered glass ceilings. For example, did you know that Old Kildonan councillor Devi Sharma is the first ever female speaker at City Hall? Did you
Oh,
know that?
neat. No, I
Yeah.
didn't. No.
Yeah, she's also the first ever South Asian female councillors. I think there's
That's
been
cool.
something like 45 women elected to council you know, in 100 years,
Hmm.
and over 400 men. But so we're
There
not
sure
quite.
are a lot of paintings of men when you go to City Hall. There's a
Yes, a
lot of them.
lot, a lot, a lot. But one common theme was how much they had to learn on the job. And most of them have had no previous experience on being a city councilor or experience in politics at all. And except for Cindy Gilroy, Councillor Cindy Gilroy, her dad, I think, was in politics. But one of the things they talked about is how it's actually a fairly flexible job, albeit demanding. Councillor Durand Wood talked about how when she had to quit so many of her community volunteering things that she
Yeah.
used to do. So now her evenings are free. So in one hand, it's kind of hard because you're giving up some of these things that you're really passionate about. But these things are what got her elected because everybody knew her. And she, like you said, she knew a lot about community organizing. Yeah.
Can you actually talk a bit more about why she had to give up those things?
Yeah. So when you first get elected, actually, she was elected on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, she went to City Hall already to start the orientation process with the city clerks. And one of the things that they do as part of your onboarding is you meet with an ethics committee. I think it is a committee, but people who analyze everything about your life. You would think that they would do that before you run, but no, it's after you're elected and confirmed. And so they have, she has to sort of not only she did, but also her family, her husband, her partner. They outline sort of everything they're involved in, and the city ethics commissioners or committee, they kind of analyze everything because if you volunteer at an organization that receives city funding,
Right.
chances are you will be biased when the committee has to vote on whether this organization is receiving funding or when the organization is applying for funding. And so it creates that conflict of interest. So all of these things that a candidate really should be doing to get to City Hall, then once you get there, it really sucks, to be honest, because wouldn't
Hmm.
you love to have your city councilor really involved in your local neighborhood association, not just showing up to serve lunches, but like doing, the hard work of organizing and really
Yeah.
getting to know. So that's unfortunate, but it did free up some of her time and now she has more family time. So that's kind of cool to know as a mom. Sam, in case you're thinking of running,
Ah, yeah.
about that.
About that. Yeah, it's very tough because like you said, you feel you're in organizing groups and you feel you're making an impact. And even this show is would be a conflict of interest, you know.
Yeah.
But it logically would make sense, like you said, because a lot of these groups and these organizations, they kind of act as a bridge between the bureaucratic process and the community, and educating the community more on insights of, you know, what's happening at City Hall and how they can actually, you know, remain sustainable. Seems like a no-brainer, but that's just the current charter that we have. And,
Mhm.
you know, maybe one day we're going to get a boatload of really progressive counselors who believe that community involvement is actually very important, and they change the charter. You never know.
Yeah.
But that's just currently what we have. And so, you know, but it's not for nothing. All of that creates a baseline of experience that can prepare you for this demanding job. And for women, you know, there is quite a lot of expectations on us, not just for running a city, but also maintaining households. Like you said, they're all moms, which is buck wild. I didn't know that.
They're all moms. They all have 2
Yeah.
to 3 kids. Yeah.
But you know, it's moms who would be amazing at that because they're handling so much logistics already for very little pay. So
Yes, absolutely.
so they are the perfect candidates. So it was a
Speaking
really
though,
neat event.
speaking of progressive counselors, did you see that I got this?
Look at that
Okay, check
recognition.
this out.
Thank you. For our
Yes.
listeners who are not watching the video, it is a certificate with an official signature on it, and it says, "Thank you, Patty Weens, first bike mayor of Winnipeg, for inspiring and educating people on the issues that shape our city." And it is signed by Councillor Michael Jans, who is a
He's from
councillor
Edmonton.
from
In
Edmonton.
Edmonton.
Wow. So
That's
you're
all I
getting
said.
recognition from the Edmonton City Hall. That's buck wild. Good for you.
I know. How sweet. How sweet is he? I talk about him a lot in my book, and I guess he read it. I don't know.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Notice me, senpai. And he did. That's good.
Exactly. Oh my. Well, now let's switch things up a little and let's talk about your city councillor. One of the most common comments that we get on our videos and social media posts is, "My councillor is the worst." And though you're probably right, we love to hear exactly why you think so. So we have a little form for you to fill out in the description of the show and at ballotbabes.com to let us know why your counselor just isn't doing a good enough job. Are they getting back to you when you reach out to them? Are they not dealing with the issue that is so important to you? And really, is it them? Or is it you? Fill out the form and we're going to make sure to give you feedback in the next few episodes.
Now, let's talk about some speculations about candidates for the election in October. And just a reminder, it is occurring October 28th, 2026, and you are going to be voting for the mayor, your ward councillor, and a school trustee. This is very important, and it will be on the test that's coming
Yeah.
up.
It's the real
For
test.
the real test, which is municipal governance. So remember those 3 people and remember that date. Clear your schedule. Also, your work should allow you to take a break to go and do this voting. And remember to bring your babes. Make a party out of it. It's going to be so fun. So we're going to be talking about, there was an article that came out recently through CBC Manitoba that had some speculations on who is going to be running for mayor, some folks who are considering running for not the councillor seat in their ward. But again, they are just speculations because you can't really be sure who is going to be running until the deadline has passed. Can you remind me when the deadline is that people have to register?
Sure. So there are a couple of deadlines. If you want to run for mayor, you, first of all, can't register until May 1st, but you can register right up until I think September 22nd. So it could be like just a month before the election that you find out who
Yeah.
all the candidates are. But if you're running for mayor, you cannot register until May 1st. And if you're running for council, you cannot register until June 30th. So we really won't know until then who's running. And even after then, there could be more candidates. Sometimes people join in the last minute, but it's very important to know, Sam, that you can't have a website, you can't collect money, you can't spend money on campaigns, nothing. You cannot do anything until that registration date. So if you're running for council and you're telling people, you can tell people, but you cannot collect money, start a website, or spend money. So important to know.
Awesome. Awesome. Just get your sugar daddy to start designing your campaign signs. No, I'm joking. But before we analyze all these candidate speculations, we're going to go over the requirements for running for mayor and for council. So number one, you have to be a Canadian citizen. And number two, you have to be 18 years or older on election day. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if a bunch of 18-year-olds ran for mayor?
Oh my gosh, that would be so
love
cool.
that so much. You also have to be a resident of Manitoba, a registered voter, and you can't be disqualified by law. So those are the criteria. If you meet all of those, guess what? You can run for council. And then for school trustee, you have to be a resident in the school division since April 28th, 2026. And I think and it's also the same criteria as above. The school trustees usually are folks who have been involved in the educational field in some capacity and are aware of what's going on within their school division and in their area. So, for example, actually, in the last by-election, there were some school trustee spots that were open, and there was one in my school division, Pembina Trails. So that's like an extra bonus level we've all unlocked. So you have to know what ward you're in, and you also have to know what school division you're in. And if you have kids, you probably will know because you have to know your catchment schools and all that stuff. But that's also something that you should look into, dear listeners, because school trustees are very important. We will probably have an entire episode on it, but just, the very basics is that they help decide and inform policy that occurs within that school division. And it covers a lot of things. It covers required learning. It covers things like gender studies. It covers things like school zones. And school trustees, have these dialogues and relationships with city council. It covers school taxes. Like there's all kinds of stuff that being a school trustee is responsible for. And you can get certain school trustees who can band together and, their biases will lead what your children are learning about in, the public school system. And that is very important. So please be mindful of that. That is, and I admit, I have been guilty of this whenever the school trustee position goes. I just am like, who did I see the most signs for?
Yeah.
I'm different now. I'm a changed woman.
Well, like you said, it's so important because it is your kids' education that's at stake here. Some of the stuff that happened last year was there was a lot of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric in some of the schools and
book bans.
Actually, book bans, exactly. So it's important to know what your trustees stand for. Now, you don't have to be a teacher to run for a school trustee. You can just be a concerned parent. In fact, if you're a teacher in a certain school division, you cannot run, I don't think, for a school trustee in that division. You have to live there, but I don't think you can teach there. I think that's kind of the rule. Not sure. You can check and let me know. But as a parent, I think that would be cool to have some parent school trustees as well.
Yeah, for sure. And
Councillor
maybe that's
Rollins. Yeah, Councillor Rollins used to be a school trustee, actually. So it's cool. She graduated to the city council. It was nice seeing her too. She's like, big fan, big fan.
Yeah.
So
she's, you didn't, I don't know if you have the handwritten note. But
yeah,
shout out,
yeah,
Councillor Rollins.
Yeah, shout out
Thank
to
you so much for listening. But you can see then, and that's an example of how school trustee was a pathway for her into city council, which is important too. So again, if you have been considering running maybe for council, but then you're like, I don't know, I don't think I'm ready. Like maybe consider school trustee.
Speaking of big fans, which city councillor do you think, listener, that we should interview first? Because we are going to interview. We're going to at least reach out to them and see. I would love to start with some of these women that we get to talk to on a regular basis. And they know us by name because, troublemakers here. But we'd love to know who you would like us to interview first. I know that Councillor Rollins really wants to come on. I know Councillor Gilroy wants to come on. I'm hoping to get Councillor Duran Wood to come on. So let us know. Also, some of the candidates. I met with a woman who is going to be running in Minarski, Natalie Smith. And she is definitely going to come on and talk about her platform. I told her, get all your I's dotted and T's crossed and let's talk. So we're looking forward to that. But let's look at the list now. Sam, do you want to give us a little rundown on what we know about candidates so far?
All right, so the kettle's boiled, so the tea is ready. It is steeped, and we are going to be serving it to you momentarily. All right, so we are going to start with the mayoral candidates. So Scott Gillingham is our current mayor, and good, 5 points. You've got it. Someone at the gym the other day didn't know who our mayor was, and I nearly fell down, but that's okay. Scott Gillingham is our current mayor, and he is confirmed. He is the incumbent, which means he is the current sitting mayor, the one who must be defeated to be unseated, and he is seeking his second term. Next is Don Woodstock. He intends to run, but he is not confirmed. He ran in 2018 and in the last one in 2022. Our third one is Mike Vogiadzakis.
We just call him Mike V.
Mike V, because I am terrible and I couldn't pronounce it properly. He intends to run. He previously attempted to run in 2014. I'm not going to go there about Mike V. I encourage everyone
I think we should
listen to this episode. Should we? Should we? I always say I'm not going to, but you can tell that I really want to. Some of you may have seen him recently, sort of beginning his campaign in various Facebook groups and talking about how he's going to clean up the city. Mike V does not have experience on a city council or really in community in a big way. He runs a funeral parlor. And again, you can Google how that's going for him. He also believes the 15-minute city is a conspiracy, which is a problem. Take some of these folks with a grain of salt. All of them. I need you to actually do your homework, everyone, and just maybe check the Winnipeg Reddit. That's also a really great resource.
Yes, absolutely.
So our last one is Kevin Klein. He is considering it. Kevin Klein currently owns the company that owns the Winnipeg Sun. And
that should tell you everything you need to know.
He also has a column in the Winnipeg Sun, so he is going to tell you everything that you need to know about him. And he actually was the councillor for my ward in Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. And he vacated his seat in order to run for mayor. And he was unsuccessful. So his seat went to Evan Duncan, who ran. So Kevin Klein, like I said, former city councillor. He is also a former PC MLA, member of the Legislative Assembly. So again, there you go. I actually had someone else at the gym, completely separate person, asking me what the party affiliations were of all of our city councillors. And I had to just go, nope, there is no party affiliation. However, in this case, he had a party that he was in, and that can, again, tell you more about who he is. So let's move on to city council and who is going to be trying to get their next term or get their reelection. These are kind of a mix of confirmed and intending. Again, until they have announced for sure, we don't know. But some of these are a pretty sure one, like Jeff Burwadi, the King of North Kildonan. He is seeking his sixth term. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 years.
He would be the longest running city councillor if he gets elected again. And he is the incumbent, if you paid attention what that is. So, there's a lot of power in that because, the evil And I just don't know that I want to see things named after him. So.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Man, the Jeff Brawadi Bridge,
oh
the Jeff
my.
Brawadi Park, the Jeff Brawadi bus lane.
No, no, bike lane. Oh, yes, on
Oh,
Henderson
bike lane.
Highway. You know what?
Yeah,
If there's
or like
ever
a
a
clover leaf, something with that
amazing.
a lot of diesel engines go over. Jeff. He is the admin of the North Kildonan Community Facebook page, and he is very active on there. So he is doing his campaigning in some way. So, again, kind of pay attention to what people are saying out there in the world. So our next one is Devi Sharma, who is the current councillor for Old Kildonan. It will be her fifth term, and last election she was what's called acclaimed. What does that mean, Patty?
Acclaimed means that she doesn't really have to run because there was no one else that ran. I don't even know if people had to vote because she was the only candidate. So it's kind of crazy that in this day and age, someone can run and, be acclaimed to city council without having to work for it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's a woman. She's the first South Asian woman on council. She's the first woman to be the speaker. But at the same time, no one should run acclaimed. No one should be acclaimed to city council. There
Yeah.
should be a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, or even just, like, thank you for for, having this trust in me for this many terms. And also to reestablish what the platform is for this candidate so that members of that ward can know what the candidate stands for. Maybe talk about the track record, spend that time getting reacquainted with your community and asking them, like, again, like, yeah, I've been acclaimed all these times, but like maybe there's new things that you need from me. And, it is, like you said, it is very just like an automatic, unopposed job security. And that shouldn't really be in politics. You've got to actually try with real people.
Yeah, and truth be told, she probably had to run a campaign till September until it was
Mhm.
really sure that she was going to be acclaimed because of the deadline of, mid to late September. But still, it would be great to know if anyone is thinking of running in that area. Who's next?
Old Kildonan. We got Marcus Chambers, St. Norbert, Seine River, although I have also heard some chatter that he is not going to be running again.
Yeah, that's what I had heard as well. But
But you never know. Some people can change their mind or their life can change and they just decide to go for it again. Ross Eady, who is the counselor for Minarski, seeking his fifth term. Again, Natalie Smith, is that their name? Is
yeah,
going to be running, against him. So that'll be interesting because I believe this ward doesn't really see a ton of action, and I'd have to look back at the voting records for the last vote, but I think Ross won by only like 500 votes or something. So, maybe it's going to be an interesting ward to really watch out for.
yes.
Cindy Gilroy and Daniel McIntyre seeking her fourth term. Love you, Cindy. Love what you're doing right now. She's putting out a lot of video content that just breaks down everything that happens at the city council and everything that they have control over, and programs that maybe you wouldn't really know about because they don't hit the news cycle because they're not juicy, but they're necessary. So highly recommend just checking out her social media right now. And again, she's really responsive too. Next up, we have Vivian Santos in Point Douglas seeking her third term. Sherry Rollins, who, we love ya. Thanks for going to the ropes for us so many times. She is the councillor of Fort Rouge, East Fort Garry, seeking her third term, city center. Sean Dobson in St. James, seeking his third term. Evan Duncan, Charleswood, Tuxedo, Westwood. My buddy, seeking re-election. This will be his second term. And Emma Durand Wood, who we discussed at the top of the episode for Elmwood, East Kildonan. All of these people have to actually confirm that they're going to be running, but that's who we're working with right now. And yeah, in a lot of these wards, I haven't really heard of folks going up against them. So remember, your ward.
You can really tell which ones are campaigning already because, like you see, the mayor's been campaigning for a year. He's been making his little TikToks and trying to make people see how great he is. Cindy Gilroy is spending a lot of time explaining how things work. She rides the bus and she talks about riding the bus. So, yeah, you can tell who is really campaigning. Did we even talk about Brian Mays?
No, we have a list of considering, but also on
Oh,
this
right.
list we don't have Matt Allard for St. Boniface.
Yeah, true. We don't have that here. Okay. But we don't know yet. I guess Matt Allard hasn't confirmed. Russ Wyatt has not confirmed. And remember that Councillor Russ Wyatt has a charge against him for sexual assault. So we just don't know if he is running again yet. Well, I
Which is
guess we'll
funny. We
start.
went over, remember, listeners, we went over the criteria for that, and one of them was not be disqualified by law. And even with charges, can still run.
And still
So,
run.
can
It's all
still
in the
run.
court.
And I hate to say it, this is the second time he's been able to run, not be disqualified by law, because there were charges before. That's all I'll say
Hmm.
about it, because we talked about it. But it's something that remember and pay attention to, because when stuff
Hmm.
like that happens, candidates work really hard to expunge the record on those sorts of things.
Mm.
So, yes. Then we have some folks who are still considering and who are potential. And I'm just going to go over the current counselors for that. Like there's John Orlikow, who is the River Heights Fort Garry counselor. He is undecided. He has not been to work in person in about a year, so not sure. And then we have Brian Mays for St. Vital. He's undecided. We have Janice Lukes, Waverly West. Really, she hasn't really issued a comment, but her decision is expected in June with everyone else. Some new folks whose names you should maybe just keep track of. We have Sean Nason for Transcona, who's considering. Laura Meisman for Transcona as well. And Transcona is Russ Wyatt's ward. Just to shoot that reminder out there for you. In Fort Rouge East, Fort Garry, we have Jeff Palmer, who is considering. St. James, Kelly Ryback, who did run in the past. So she is considering a rematch to try and do it again. And also in St. James, Tyler Crichton, who plans to run. And you may have seen some of his stuff on Less on Ness and Friends of the Heart Trail. And, he's been putting up a lot of content as well, just about community awareness. So that's another candidate to watch out for.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
what
I
we
find
got.
that Tyler's campaign. I feel like Tyler's been campaigning for a while, even though, he hasn't really talked about how he's running. I think he has started really confirming that he will be running in the past couple of months. But Tyler has been posting on his social media a lot in the past couple years, I would say. Positive content about how much he loves Winnipeg. He is from St. James. He has a lot of passion for Sturgeon Creek. The Heart Trail is not in St. James, but he's been really involved in his community. And again, doing a lot of the volunteering that's required to get to know your community. So he's doing a lot of the groundwork. I know that I've been watching his social media for a couple of years now, and there's a lot of really great, passionate things that he talks about. He did a great video, a longer video on how cities should not be run as businesses. I encourage you to look for that because it has a lot of the same ideas that are in a book called You'll Pay for This by Mitch Duranwood. So, some of these basic things that we need to do to start repairing our communities and that we can afford to do because cities are broke. So, yeah, great candidate to watch for sure. There's also one that's not on the list here. It's another Tyler, I think Anderson is is going to be running here in North Kildonan. I looked a little bit at his policies and his platform, and it seems like he's a little bit naive in some of the things that he's hoping for. I'm going to bring back the old transit system. That's not going to happen on your own. And also, I'm not sure if he quite understands city finances, and I'm not sure if there's time for him to grasp that concept before October. But, I'm going to be watching as well. Maybe we need to drop off some books for him to read before he starts campaigning so he can understand a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. If city council could be run by wishes and desires and good intentions, imagine where we'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just
Okay.
sigh
Sorry.
longingly,
Sorry.
imagining our urban utopia.
Exactly.
So these are folks who, they may or may not be running a campaign. They're going to be doing door knocking. You're going to have leaflets in your mailbox. You're going to check out their website. You're going to maybe see some more content from them. Cool. That's all pretty in your face, basic campaigning. But there's another type of candidate that can get on the ballot, and it's called a paper candidate. Can you tell us a bit about that, Patty?
I think that I know. Let's see if I do. A paper candidate is someone who wants to start getting name recognition, doesn't really want to do the work of campaigning, and just wants to make sure that the candidate, the incumbent in their area has to do some work and sees a name going, shoot, I thought it was going to be a claim, but now I have to do a little bit of work. Right?
That's right.
Am I right?
Yeah, so it's basically, there's also another word for it. It's called a no hope candidate or a token opposition. Which is so funny. It's basically, someone who's usually like a well-known non-politician or not even that well-known, but they kind of throw in their hat in the ring to just kind of be like, oh, you could think about me, even though I'm kind of laissez-faire about this, but at least, you're opposing someone who maybe always goes unopposed. They differ from a dummy candidate, which is another type. They're like a dummy candidate is someone who joins up and who doesn't expect to win the race. But a paper candidate, they kind of come in and yeah, they're a bit more casual about it, but they're like, I actually do have, some qualifications or at least some level of popularity that might make me, a reasonable opponent. And you can just register, put your name on the ballot, and you can choose to do whatever kind of campaigning you want to do, but you're just like, oh, I just want to try it out. I just want to see, and you might be shocked that you might accidentally get elected. So you always have to kind of take that risk and understand that.
I know. Sometimes Ian says I should just put my name down as a paper candidate just to give Jeff a run for his money. But what if I win?
I know. It's so scary. I don't want
it's super
to.
scary.
It's also, I can hear people, already groaning and being like, oh, look at you. You think you're actually going to be elected? And it's like, yeah, I do. I mean, that's step one of anyone's candidate or like campaign is that, I could win. So if you wanted to try it out, you can go for it and just sneak on the ballot. And like Patty said, you could literally do it a month before the election and just be like, hey, put up one sign and be like, that's me. So
get a big humongous sign and that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah. And you know what? We're just here to encourage like all these paper candidates because we love chaos. We want content for our podcast. So we want you to join up as a paper candidate and tell us how it's going and take a selfie with us. But in any case, like these are all real things and politics like this can be fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's today's episode. I hope you learned something and I hope you start thinking about whether you are going to be a paper candidate, a real candidate, a dummy candidate, or a supporter if you're going to get involved in a campaign. Watch out. Let's start looking at the candidates and don't forget to either call in any thoughts you have about the show or call in saying why your counselor is so bad or so good. What is your counselor doing or not doing that makes them a good or a bad counselor? And remember, Winnipeg, remember to go out. How do we end this show?
Do you want me to do it? And remember, Winnipeg, City Council works for you. And this October, tell your babe to vote or else. End it on a threat.
Yes, or else.